talk about the Trusted DFG Assessor training that we've developed working with the OT service that's very much built along the principles of the competency framework that Rachel's just outlined to you. And it's based very much on what we talk about in the introduction to DFG training, which if you've done the course, you'll recognise this slide, and particularly the eligible works, which are kind of the key bit that you want a trusted assessor to be able to establish. Eligible works are always based on two-stage test of meeting one of the 12 purposes that a DFG can be awarded for, and then specifically whether the works are necessary and appropriate in the circumstances, which traditionally, and I think there's probably still quite a few local authorities have this view, is that it's kind of social care or the OT's role to decide what is necessary and appropriate, and the housing team's role to decide what was reasonable and practicable. But there was some case law from a judicial review probably about 3 years ago now that said that actually wasn't the case, and that social care are a consultee to the decision around necessary and appropriate. But because reasonable and practicable only applies to the age and condition of the dwelling, so unless the property is either old and or in really poor condition, then you can't refuse a grant based on reasonable and practicable for any other reason. So that makes necessary and appropriate obviously the main consideration when you're looking at whether you would award a grant or not. And there are housing elements to that, as well as what was perhaps seen as the social care or OT assessment. And a key reason that we've spent some time focusing and developing the competency frameworks and trusted DFG assessor training is that in many areas there are significant waiting lists for adult social care, which quite often includes OT assessments and people looking for DFGs, when in actual fact, if they just need something like a shower, a stair lift, or a ramp, may not need any other social care services and could be diverted from the social care waiting list, go directly to the DFG team or the housing team and be assessed there by a trusted assessor, which helps both the person, because they're not waiting for as long, and helps the kind of social care system to kind of streamline some of these cases through. So, as Rachel was saying, was very much seeing housing staff as being trusted assessors, because not every case needs an OT, and that housing staff can be trained as trusted DFG assessors to do the necessary and appropriate element for straightforward cases. It's based on the clear competency framework that Rachel set out, and we focus it on simple adaptations, or what are generally simple adaptations, and kind of the most common adaptations: bathroom ramps and stair lifts, so that it reduces waiting times and frees up OTs for the more complex cases. Safeguards, key part of the training is that it's always done within agreed limits. It's under OT supervision, that there's ongoing training and support, which I'll mention in a moment, and that OTs remain central for complex needs or where there's safeguarding concerns. So when do you use a trusted DFG assessor? Well, we do have a triage tool for that, and it's something we developed probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and there are a number of local authorities that already use this tool. It's clicking on quicker than I expect this afternoon. But so the triage tool itself is based on these 4 relatively straightforward questions. And then this is the tool itself, which is available on our website if you want to have a play with it. And you basically click through and choose one of 3 answers for each of the 4 questions. So there we go. You can pick the appropriate answers. And then for this particular case, you can see it's appropriate for a trusted assessor to look at. So if you're kind of interested in how you might apply it in practice, that there are a number of local authorities that are currently using this approach. And this is what a process might look like for a caseworker who is trained as a trusted DFG assessor. So they would receive an inquiry from a member of the public, maybe diverted away from the social care waiting list. The case is triaged, as you've just seen. It's found to be suitable for a trusted assessor, who can then call the applicant, make the appointment, go and visit them, assess what the person can do, look at the environment and the spaces that need to be adapted, and talk through the options about what might work. Agree what those would be to include in the application, and during the same visit go through the application forms and means testing, and then potentially pass on to a surveyor or contractor to handle the kind of technical elements of the case. And as kind of said, that we've focused it very much on bathrooms, stair lifts and ramps, so that the course itself looks at how you would assess in practice for these three key elements of kind of the DFG program. They're by far the most common, have the biggest impact on daily life. There are clear standard solutions for all of these, and it's all about speeding up delivery and freeing up OT expertise for those complex cases. But it's not just about the training. So as kind of Rachel was saying, just to re-emphasize, we're not just saying that somebody can do a 2-day training course and then be ready to set out and do all the assessments that would otherwise be done by others. So one of the key things that we've developed, I think Rebecca asked about this earlier, how you can manage your kind of competencies and the evidence that you collate for those competencies. We're going to be offering CPD Me, which I'll show you a quick video on in a second. But for anyone doing our training, and we're just kind of setting it up and hoping to launch it early in the new year, we will offer free membership of CPD Me, where you can record, the competencies will be set up on the system, and you will be able to record things like coming to Foundations Live today or any of our training courses. At almost a click of a button, you'll be able to add that evidence to your CPD record. So here's Andrew from CPD Me, who's going to explain a little bit more about it.
Hi, my name's Andrew, and I'm the founder and the innovation director here behind CPD Me. And I'm pretty excited to announce that we are, fingers crossed.
Hi, my name's Andrew, and I'm the founder and the innovation director here behind CPD Me. And I'm pretty excited to announce that we are, fingers crossed, putting a partnership together with Foundations to make recording your CPD simple. So at the heart of what we do here at CPD Me is make all of your CPD, whether that's conferences, events, learning, supervision, whatever that might be, simple by allowing it to be recorded on our platform so that you can produce a perfectly polished CPD portfolio. Lots of other fantastic features such as recording diary entries, uploading evidence, reflective practice, supervision tools, along with an amazing learning library. So all of these things we are going to bring together to you as part of Foundations. This system will revolutionise the way that you think about CPD, but more importantly, it will make recording your CPD really, really easy, and I give you that promise. We've got an amazing mobile app and an amazing dashboard that we're going to integrate into the Foundation platform, and this will literally make your CPD simple. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to fire them to me at andrew@cpdme.com, and I'll try and answer as many as I can for you.
Great, thank you, Andrew.
This exciting new collaboration, and I'm sure the team here at Foundations will be telling you about some of the features.
It's not just about training. It's not just about the competency frameworks. It's also about supporting each other. So we're putting together a peer support network. So people who've been through the Trusted DFG Assessor training can then get access to a private online space where they can ask questions, share resources, swap ideas, and basically kind of provide peer support for each other across the country. And we'll have regular quarterly update sessions where we'll provide information on latest guidance, policy and case examples, and have some CPD sessions from some of your favourite suppliers and manufacturers from across the sector. And that's free of charge as part of doing the Trusted DFG Assessor course for the first year. And that's one of our growing range of networks. So there's a whole range of other professional networking, as well as communities of practice and regional networks for managers, which are all available once you've registered from the little icon at the bottom right of our website. And then Networks itself looks like this. So it's fairly similar to kind of Teams or kind of Facebook or other kind of chat-based services, but it's a place where trusted DFG assessors will be able to get together and be supported by ourselves, the Foundations and the OT service. So courses are available now. It's a 2-day course. As I say, focuses on bathrooms, stair lifts and ramps. And we've got upcoming courses, as you can see, via the QR code on the top left or on the centre of the screen now. There's one coming up in Kent, and then another one I think is in Middlewich in the northwest. So whether you're south or north, there are 2 courses coming up before the end of the year.
Trusted DFG Assessor, helping people live at home.
That's one of the tracks off our album, all about Trusted DFG Assessor. Right, let's have a look at some of the comments. So while I'm looking through the comments, the next bit I wanted to talk about was the competency framework for technical officers, and why we've developed one for technical officers is very much based on the requirements of the Building Safety Act. And I've got somebody to talk about that for you.
Do you understand how the Building Safety Act applies to disabled facilities grants? I'm Paul from Foundations, and in this video I'm going to explain everything you need to know. In response to the Grenfell Tower tragedy, the government introduced the Building Safety Act in 2022. The aim of the Act is to improve safety and accountability across the construction and management of buildings. It ensures that building safety is prioritised throughout the design, construction and occupation phases, and it makes duty holders accountable for compliance and robust safety standards. It applies to all building work where building regulations applies and ensures safety measures are embedded in construction projects of all sizes. And in addition, there are stricter requirements for high-risk buildings, those over 18 metres or 7 stories high. Similar to the CDM regs, the Building Safety Act has 3 roles: client, designer and contractor. The role of the client is to appoint the designer and contractor, to ensure compliance and to share information. The role of the designer is to produce compliant designs, coordinate with other designers and flag high-risk work. And the role of the contractor is to deliver compliant work, coordinate with the others and supervise workers on site. So how do these roles map onto the roles that we typically have in a DFG process, where we have an applicant or resident, a contractor and a local authority? So this can depend on the type of grant and the approach being taken. Is it a situation where the client is managing the process themselves, or is it a situation where the Home Improvement Agency or local authority are taking on that role as an agent? So what matters is who is controlling the adaptations. If, as a local authority or a Home Improvement Agency, you're in control of how the adaptations are done, then you take on the role of client under the Building Safety Act. So in most cases, as a local authority or Home Improvement Agency, you'll have the role of both designer and client. So as I said, the Building Safety Act applies where building regulations apply. So what are the circumstances where building regulations apply for a typical disabled facilities grant project? So according to the Local Authority Building Control website, The majority of domestic like-for-like replacement kitchens or bathrooms won't need any form of building regulations approval, but if you're modifying the existing layout, then approval is likely to be needed. Here's a list of typical examples of where building regulations will or won't apply. In terms of a DFG case, if you're relocating a sink or other bathroom appliance, if you're fitting a new fan or replacing a door or window, then building regulations are likely to apply, and the Building Safety Act also applies. So one of the key roles of a client in the process is to ensure competency of both the designers and the contractors. So to ensure competency of a designer, you need to check relevant qualifications and professional memberships, check if they have experience in similar projects, ensure they've got professional indemnity insurance, and think about their ongoing CPD and training. For a contractor, you're going to want to look at trade certifications, that they have a proven track record, they have in public and employees liability insurance, up-to-date training, and membership of something like the Home Adaptations Installer Network. So as mentioned earlier, there are additional requirements for high-risk buildings, those buildings that are over 18 metres tall or 7 or more stories. So as I mentioned earlier, if the building is over 18 metres tall or more than 7 stories, it is deemed a high-risk building and you need to make an application to the Building Safety Regulator. Your local authority building control may still advise, but final approval goes to the regulator, who can consult a multidisciplinary team about your application. So what do you need to include in this application? There'll be detailed design specifications showing that you won't compromise safety, risk assessments, and evidence that both the contractor and designer are competent. You'll need to provide information about the building's construction, things like its height, materials and compartmentation, plus proof you've engaged the accountable person, which is usually the landlord or freeholder of the property. So what are the timescales? Officially, this should take 8 to 12 weeks, but in the real world can take 20 or more. So it's important that you keep this extended timeline as part of your project schedules and plan carefully and keep clients informed.
So that was an overview of the Building Safety Act. And as you can see, one of the key elements of the Building Safety Act, whereas kind of a lot of it's thought to kind of focus, I think, on high-risk buildings, it actually applies to any building works where building regs apply, which is quite a lot of DFGs, particularly if you're rearranging bathrooms, for example, and using different connections to either kind of drainage or plumbing. So this is our website. So if you go to How We Help section, you can find the competencies frameworks there. So this is the competency framework section. Got the Foundation's competencies logo. And we're starting off with trusted DFG assessors and technical officers, and there will be more coming soon for OTs, and we'll be looking at caseworkers and managers and other roles as we go forwards. But so I'll just show you what this looks like as a web page, so you can follow it yourself. So this is the one for technical officers. Competence matters primarily because of the Building Safety Act. And we've developed this particular framework so that it aligns with British Standard 8670, which is the kind of PAS competencies that link to the Building Safety Act. Also kind of very similar to CDM regs. So again, it's very similar to the framework that Rachel set out in terms of there are core competencies and then stage specific competencies. So whereas for trusted assessors, stage 1 would be kind of primary stage where they're involved. For technical officers, it's more likely to be stage 2, which is the designer specification, and stage 4, which is works on site. So as you follow down, there are behavioural, technical, legislative, and management considerations. So core competency A's around behavioural issues. So things like knowledge around Building Safety Act, CDM, skills around sound judgment when balancing competing risks and priorities, and behaviour around kind of acting with integrity and accountability. technical competencies, common construction types, adaptation products, key design considerations, skills, things like carrying out measured surveys, producing accurate drawings, considering the long-term usability, which is obviously a key element of CDM. Behaviour, for example, seeking specialist input when risks fall outside your personal competence. Section C is around legislative competence, things like the DFG, legislation, building regs, landlord and leaseholder permissions, how to explain legal duties to clients and colleagues, for example, is one of the skills. And then behaviour, for example, taking responsibility for ensuring all works is lawful and compliant, particularly if you're the designer. So they follow down with requirements around knowledge, skills, and behaviour for each section. And then for stage 2, again, kind of the knowledge, skills, and behaviours, you would have stage 2. And again, for stage 4, which is the works on site. And then at the end there, as kind of talked about in the video, there's a bit around the additional competencies for high-risk buildings. And if you're designing or managing works in high-risk buildings as part of your application to the regulator, you do need to show that you're competent to design the works in those sort of buildings. So this helps you set all that out. And some suggestions on elements of evidence that you could use. And all this, as I said before, will be built into CPD-Me so that basically you can show you're competent, use it for professional development, and I suppose at the end of the day, ensure that safe, secure, properly designed adaptations are done for the people who need the service.